Hey guys, welcome back to Prepping in Progress. I'm Steve, and with me is Baby Prepper.
And Boaz. Stop.
This is going to be the first in a series of videos about why raw feeding is what we're going to be talking about today, but raw feeding of your animals and transitioning them into raw foods in an SHTF scenario, and we'll be talking about doing it pre-SHTF. So, cue the cool intro. So we've talked about raw feeding off camera. You've been trying to convince me as to why this would be a good idea and answering a lot of my questions. So I thought we'd share this with them. So why don't you explain to them and me why we should raw feed?
Well, dogs are 99.9% wolves, is the theory behind all of it. Their digestive systems and their nutritional needs are all the same. Wolves in the wild, they're eating carcasses. They're either killing their prey or they're finding already deceased animals and eating them. So the type of raw feeding I feed there's two different kinds. One's called barf, and it sounds horrible, but I forget what it stands for because I don't care about that one. But they do feed vegetables and such. Wolves in the wild will eat berries and vegetation when they're starving, if there's no other foods. Other than that, what I do is the prey model raw, which is the idea of we're feeding a whole carcass over a period of time. So you're wanting a certain percentages of organ meats and bone and fat and proteins and heart, and every part of the body of the animal has some kind of nutritional value, such as like green tripe, which is the stomach of a ruminant. They won't necessarily eat the contents of the stomach, but a wolf in the wild, if it gets hold of it, will shake the contents out. Of course, there's still some in there. That has really good digestive enzymes for them to help break down bone and such like that. Bone, you don't ever want to feed it cooked because it changes the chemical composition of the bone, which can cause it to splinter, and that's what will puncture the intestines of the animal, and you're stuck with an animal that has fecal matter in its abdomen and sepsis and disease.
Now, I've only heard about that being with chickens. Is that with other animals as well?
It's with every kind of bone, yes. Any kind of cooked bone can splinter.
Okay.
It's just the composition. It's chicken, turkey, beef, pork, any kind of bone you don't want to feed cooked, period.
Well, I learned something new.
Well, and then bone to dogs is like fiber for us. It bulks up the stool. Like Tessa here, if when you feed something rich, like organ meats or chicken gizzards, it can cause a loose stool. I always couple that with a bone. Boaz doesn't need not near as much as bone as Tessa does. She's the main reason I feed raw.
Okay.
Tessa, come here. She's a almost 8-year-old standard poodle. She's only 40 pounds, which female standard poodles should be. I mean, she's still standard, but they're supposed to be more like 55 to 65 pounds. When I got her, she was literally fur and bones, and I bought the best kibble every other day trying to get her to eat. She just refused to eat, and when I switched her to raw, I can't get her to stop eating. Of course, she's a spoiled brat, and the only thing I can find that she doesn't like to eat is pork organ, unless I lightly sear it in garlic butter.
So, for the most part, she's kosher.
Yeah. Good girl. Boaz. Boaz, I've never fed Kibble. I went straight from the breeder to me without Kibble, and he went straight on to transition, which is a point I want to bring up too. Is you don't want to just throw raw meat and bone and organs at your dogs. There's a process to switch them over to it. We'll get into that in further future videos, but it takes probably two months, and then they go through a detox process of getting rid of the toxins from Kibble. Kibble has only been around since World War I?
Two.
Okay, World War II. When convenience started, and it was the cans.
Yeah, they had to find a new way to package it and make it more shelf stable, because the metal was going into bullets and war material. Right.
And that's when Kibble came about. Before that, everybody was feeding dogs scraps, the wet canned food that was scraps from, it pretty much was meat byproduct meal. And the dog food industry is not really regulated like people food. There's a program, I know it's on Amazon. I think it was on Netflix at one point, but it's called Pet Fooled. And it's pretty much explains the main reason of why you want to feed your dogs raw. I've personally, with a friend of mine who is a homesteader, we used to go and get her dog food and put them in Rubbermaid tubs. I showed bulldogs, and she co-owned one of my bulldogs with me, and she raised Neapolitan Mastiffs, so she had quite a few dogs. So we would dump our Kibble in Rubbermaid tubs, and we found a canine tooth in one of them. We looked through all her dogs, nobody was missing one, and when we ran across Pet Food, it all came to head of what happened. But a lot of animal byproducts, it's whatever kind of animal they can get, including euthanized animals from vets' offices. And they're rendering that meat as a cheap meat, and we're feeding it to our animals and wondering why they're coming up with cancers and not living a full life. Like Tessa, she acts like a young dog, even though she's 8, and clean teeth and just healthy as can be. And I've raw fed her since she was about 9 months old.
Okay.
So, and that's when, back to the story of why she refused to eat Kibble when I first got her. Was very skinny. I would mix it with cottage cheese. Anything I could think of to entice her to eat. It would work for maybe a day, and finally I just decided to try her on raw. And I did tell that story.
Now you mentioned detoxing.
Yes.
What goes on with that?
Well, it's just like with us, when you go from eating a really bad diet and switching to eating a clean, healthy diet, you're gonna have a little detoxing. You're gonna break out in pimples. You're gonna lose some hair. Weird things can happen to you. Just like with dogs, it can be a myriad of all sorts of stuff. It could be nothing at all. One of my poodles that I don't have anymore got really bad yeast ear infections, and I just kept it clean with the white distilled vinegar and water, and it eventually went away when her body transitioned. I know, I had a bulldog that blew his coat, so he just pretty much lost, not all of his fur, but he lost an amazing amount of fur.
You're talking patches and...
Well, not even really patches, pretty much all over. You could just see the skin until his body was healthy and the fur grew right back. So you just got to ride through the storm. And, anything like ear infections, I would definitely do what you could.
So what you're telling me is, like, when people do keto and they get the keto flu and whatnot, your dog's going to get a similar...
Like yes. And it'll last, anywhere from, not at all to several months. And you just got to ride it through and understand that even vets, I have found so many vets tell me, oh, well, you need to be careful with this, and they can get E. coli and blah, blah, blah. The thing is, with all my research, I've had more research than vets. Vets are, the only nutritional classes they get is through Hill's Science Diet. And what do they peddle at the vet's office?
Yeah.
Hill's Science Diet.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, I forgot where I was going with that. Maybe I need to eat raw. What was I saying?
Well, I think we're discussing, we've gone through some of the keto flu type stuff and the detoxing effects, and that a lot of people are not educated on the raw food diet.
Oh yes, the
and
fear.
The benefits and the fear.
Yeah, the fear of the E. coli. The thing is that a dog's stomach acid is very acidic, so it is. Their stomachs are made to handle pretty much rotting flesh, and I've fed some off-putting meats before and never had any problems. I'm not saying I had maggots and just green ooey gooey stuff. I wouldn't do that, but some that just had that little twang of a smell. They don't mind it. They never have any kind of repercussions. But once again, their stomach acids are made to handle that kind of stuff, because you're thinking again of the wolves that they're out in the wild eating already deceased animals that probably aren't the most fresh.
Well, I mean, and for those of us who live out in the country, on homesteads and whatnot, we let our dogs free roam.
I saw a dog eating a rotten deer the other day.
I found armadillo carcasses in my yard, and obviously they've been at it.
Right. And their intestines also are shorter. So with the bacterial growth, there's really not enough time. And from the time we feed them till they defecate is anywhere between 2 and 6 hours. So it's also a short digestive time. The problem with kibble is that can slow it down because of all the fillers and even potatoes. I've never seen any wolves out in the wild eating a potato. So all that stuff, you can get the grain free, there's still fillers in there. So it's really, there's not the corn's really bad, but there's still fillers. And it's because the food, it can't just be a protein. It has to have something to bulk it up to make it lower cost, and that's why they're putting in fillers in there. Well, those fillers slow down the digestive system, and if there's any kind of bacteria, E. coli, salmonella, whatever, in what they're feeding, of course we're feeding roadkill and euthanized animals, there's going to be that bacteria in there if the heat process doesn't kill it off.
Gotcha.
Then you're giving it the slower digestive time with the fillers slowing down the digestion, causing these dogs to have E. coli and salmonella issues.
Which they could have passed more quickly, and they would not have gotten infected.
Exactly. And I've been feeding this way for almost 8 years. I've never once had a problem, and I'm not super careful. I'm just, I feed Boaz out on the porch. I'm like, there you go, buddy, have at it. So, and he'll have deer ribs that he's eaten the meat off and leaves it out there and goes back a couple hours later and chews on the bone. No big deal, whatever. But
Okay.
Any other points that we needed to bring?
I don't know. So it is more healthy than kibble, and most people will.
Well, it's like a health food diet for dogs because they're eating the way that their bodies are biologically determined to eat. They're carnivores. They're not omnivores. They, they can eat spinach. Boaz loves broccoli. I don't know, he's weird, but they'll go and graze on grass. They like the taste of it or they like the texture of it, but they don't nutritionally need that. And, they'll still eat it, just like wolves starving. They'll eat whatever they can get in their stomachs. They really need the protein, and there's a formula to it. You don't want to just take, I've got this freezer full of chicken that's freezer burn, I'm just going to feed it to my dog. I'll change it all up, and there's a way to start it, to start feeding them to where their bodies get used to switching from a kibble diet to a raw food diet. So it takes a little bit of transition time, and I would never feed kibble. I know some people that do kibble and raw. Never feed kibble and raw within 12 hours of each other. So that, once again, it's going back to the slow digestive rate of the fillers in the kibble, and then you're throwing raw meat in there that could possibly have salmonella and E. coli, slowing down the digestion, causing a problem.
I see where you're going.
Yeah.
Now, how has she done energy-wise and whatnot after the transition?
Well, she started running 10Ks with me. And she's an old lady, and
Wow.
she's not even on camera. Hey, Tessa, come here. Yeah. Oh, here comes Boaz. Yeah. And now he runs with me because she doesn't want to.
Now, is she physically capable of still
Oh
doing
yeah,
it?
yeah, she
Okay.
still can. She still does, but I like running with him better because he's just more fun and
More intimidating to
and
the
more
men?
intimidating.
Yeah.
Even though she's the one that everybody needs to watch out for.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do some more videos. We're actually going to put the transition and the time frames and what we're going to be
Yes.
doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Discussing how to transition your dogs. We can even do one where I'm doing dog food prep. I do prep their food. Probably. I used to do it every month, but now it's just when I'm starting to run low, and I'll go to my sources. I've got several sources. We'll discuss sourcing, and I'll separate it out to where Tessa eats about a pound a day. Boaz will eat between 3 and 4 pounds a day. And I'm not really super picky. I watch their body weight and I'll go up and down from there and adjust to with their exercise. He's so mean.
You're just a vicious
And we don't
Doberman.
worry about the germs. They kiss us and stuff. They're just fine. He's a good boy, huh?
I just blinked. I had another question.
Welcome to my world. What's that side eye for? She needs groomed really bad.
Oh, you're sourcing. Now, one thing is, like, would I just go to Walmart and buy Tyson's frozen chicken?
You could. I actually do go and buy chicken leg quarters, and that's, since he eats so much, that is probably about half of what I feed him, between a third and a half. I try to encourage them to chase the wild turkeys.
Okay.
Bring home some food. Oh boy, he's not allowed on the couch. Yeah.
It's your
Get
special
off.
day.
You're trying to give her a very sexy pose. Yeah. They're gonna steal the show.
Come here, Tessa. Hi. And you guys know I don't do poodles. I don't. I'll do dobies. I'll do wolves. You guys have all seen my wolf, but yeah, that was a poodle on me.
Hey, they're hunting dogs.
Hi. How you doing? You doing good?
What else were we gonna talk
Well, you know where I was going
Oh,
going
sourcing.
with that on the Tyson's chicken is,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
they say that, you know, a lot of these industrial places put hormones and whatnot into
Mhm.
their chicken.
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Well, and that's
Do I
a
need to
trade-off
watch that?
too. Yeah, there's a trade-off. I mean, even with the hormones and antibiotics and stuff that they put in some of the chickens, it's still way better than what's going in the kibble, which is rotting roadkill, whatever's left over from meat processing from when we get into our stuff. Boaz just kicked the camera. Animals that have died on the farm.
we'll just do this. We'll let it keep running.
There you go.
Sorry,
Animals
guy.
that have died on the farm, euthanized animals. Just you think of it, the cheapest way of coming up with meat. That's what dog food companies are doing to
Okay.
try to cut the costs, I guess you should say. So
Makes sense. So guys, that's kind of the intro. We would call her Prepper Babe, but there's actually prepperbabe.com, and she's got the market on that particular name. So meet Baby Prepper. And yeah. By the way, we should probably go into why we jokingly call you that.
let's do that.
you all know that I've preached from time to time that more people are preppers than they think they are. Well, meet city girl, lives in a tourist trap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do.
never would have thought that. Oh yeah, by the way, where did you grow up?
Originally?
Ava.
Oh, no, I haven't been back on the first.
Holy
But yeah, I
right.
lived on a farm in high school with my grandparents.
Yeah. And what skills did you learn while you were on the farm?
Oh, so many.
So I meet this raw feeder, dog trainer.
I can pull calves and
Yeah.
milk a goat, yeah, all that stuff.
Raw feeder, dog trainer. Get interested in talking to her in the middle of a tourist trap, thinking city girl doesn't know nothing. Yeah, she milks goats. And you never knew you were a prepper. You never knew you were one of us.
No, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
And I hoard soap.
Okay. What else?
Oh, like I was going to tell you, I went and replaced some shampoo and some lotions and stuff that I had in my grocery. That's what I call where I keep all my excess stuff in the garage. And I realized I had already done that. So now I have more.
Oh, there you go.
So I can forget next time if I forget.
There you
I
go.
won't though. I'll probably end up with twice that much. I don't like running out of things. So.
Yeah, we'll talk about your freezers later, huh?
Oh, yes. The dogs have their own freezers. Freezer.
Now, would you ever put meat for human consumption in with it, or?
No, because sometimes I have green tripe in there and it smells like cow poop.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So, but I mean, I would if I had to, but I have plenty of room in mine.
Okay.
But if I had to, yes.
Makes sense to me. Okay, guys, we're going to get off of here. Thanks for watching Prepping in Progress. Thanks for joining Baby Prepper and me today. And
Say goodbye.
you guys just keep being you. You're awesome. Thanks for being here. So have a good one.